We've got a big week of action coming up in the NHL with some awesome matchups this coming week. We're going to be talking about them all in NHL Games of the Week. Hey everybody, it is time for NHL Games of the Week, where we look at the best matchups this coming week in the NHL and go through them all day by day. Let's not waste any more time. Get right into it here, starting with today, December 5th, Sunday night. Couple of big ones in the Pacific Division. First, we have the Los Angeles Kings against the Edmonton Oilers. I'll be live for this game. This should be a really good one. Edmonton, one of the best teams in the West this year, off to a very solid start. LA, they've had a very up and down year. Some really good stretches, also some really tough stretches. Kind of averaged out to be around a 500 team. But both of these teams are coming off of a loss, so you know that they're going to be fighting hard to get the 2 points tonight. Big divisional matchup there that should be a lot of fun. We also have the Calgary Flames against the Vegas Golden Knights. And Calgary is your division leader right now. Vegas hasn't quite had the year that they were hoping, although they've had a ton of injury problems, which is why they've struggled to this point. But this is a huge one between the Flames and the Golden Knights. Massive divisional battle, and two teams that are hoping, certainly expecting to be in the playoffs, and could potentially end up meeting in the playoffs as the standings stay similar to how they are right now. Moving on to tomorrow, December 6th, I've got the Arizona Coyotes against the Dallas Stars. And you may not think of Arizona as being a game of the week team, but Arizona's been playing better recently. They've picked up a few wins. They've kept games really close for the most part. And they're not just going to roll over here in a big divisional battle in the Central Division against the Dallas Stars, who are one of the hottest teams in the NHL right now. Dallas is currently on a 6-game winning streak and looking to keep that rolling. This should be an interesting game. Arizona last week was able to beat Winnipeg, and we'll see if they're able to pull off the same kind of upset against the Stars here this week. But either way, I expect this to be a close game, and it should be a hard-fought one in the Central. Also, I've got the Pittsburgh Penguins against the Seattle Kraken. This is a cross-conference game. These teams don't play a lot, but holy cow, Seattle has beaten some really good teams here recently. They have very much gotten their game back on track, and they're playing a lot better over the past couple of weeks. This is going to be a tough matchup against a solid Pittsburgh team who is looking to maintain their playoff position in the Eastern Conference, but Seattle has done well recently against tough opponents. This should be a very interesting game on Monday night between the Pens and the Kraken. Moving on now to Tuesday, I have the Florida Panthers against the St. Louis Blues, another cross-conference game here. But these teams just played on Saturday, and it was a great matchup in Florida. It went to a shootout. The Panthers were able to sneak away with a 4-3 win. They play again on Tuesday night. This one should be a lot of fun. And can't wait to see if the Blues can get some revenge or if the Panthers are able to take both games against St. Louis this year. We also have the Carolina Hurricanes against the Winnipeg Jets. These are two very solid teams. Carolina, though, has kind of struggled a little bit recently. However, they did just pick up a huge win over the Sabres where they dominated that game. So it looks like the Hurricanes might be getting back to more of what we saw from them at the beginning of the season. Winnipeg has been such a hard team to gauge this year. They've had some stretches where they've looked really good, like they could maybe even win the Western Conference, and then other stretches they look like they're not even a playoff team. And it really depends on what Winnipeg Jets team shows up for this game. This should be an interesting one in Winnipeg between the Canes and the Jets. Finally, we've got the Minnesota Wild against the Edmonton Oilers in a monster matchup between two of the best teams in the Western Conference on Tuesday night. Minnesota currently leads the Central Division. One of the top teams this year, looking really good. And Edmonton is in second place in the Pacific, just behind the Calgary Flames, also one of the top teams in the West this year. So this is a huge conference matchup between two of the best teams that you're going to find. Should be a great one between the Wild and the Oilers. Moving on now to Wednesday, the 8th, December 8th. I've got the Philadelphia Flyers against the New Jersey Devils. And this isn't a matchup or game of the week or top matchup because they're two great teams. But these are two teams that are desperate for wins right now. Both of these teams on long losing streaks, really struggling as of late. Both teams were on my coldest teams in the NHL in yesterday's video. Philadelphia and New Jersey both are just really, really desperate to get back into the win column. And this should be a very hard-fought game between these two for one of these teams to get 2 points and get a much-needed win in the standings. We also have the Dallas Stars against the Vegas Golden Knights on Wednesday night. Like I said, Dallas is one of the hottest teams in the NHL right now, playing really, really well, climbing the standings in the Central. Vegas, not exactly off to the best start this year in the Pacific, but still, they expect to be a playoff team. And this is going to be a hard-fought game with a big 2 points on the line between those two. Moving on now to Thursday, December 9th. This is the biggest day for the NHL this week with a ton of great matchups on Thursday night, starting with the Tampa Bay Lightning against the Toronto Maple Leafs. The number 2 team in Toronto in the Atlantic Division against the number 3 team in Tampa Bay in the Atlantic Division. If the season ended right now, this would be a first-round playoff matchup between the Lightning and the Leafs. Boy, would that be a whole lot of fun. Two great Eastern Conference teams here going at it. Should be a great one, and I will be streaming Thursday night for this game between the Lightning and the Leafs. We also have the Carolina Hurricanes against the Calgary Flames. Another cross-conference matchup, but a really, really good one as Carolina is going to look to keep their season success going with a road trip here. And Calgary, we've talked so much about the Flames and how good they've been this season. Now, they've been better on the road than at home, so that kind of makes this one a little bit interesting because it is in Calgary. But that should be a really hard-fought game between those two teams. Two very good teams this season. Winnipeg against Seattle. Again, Seattle has really played well against some really good competition here recently, starting to play a lot better. And Winnipeg, you never know which Winnipeg team is going to show up. The potential division winning Winnipeg Jets or the non-playoff Winnipeg Jets. You never know which side of this team is going to show up. Should be a fun one, though. Should be a hard-fought game in Seattle. And that's going to be an interesting one to see who gets the 2 points out of that. Minnesota against San Jose. These two teams played earlier in the season, and it was a really fun game to watch. San Jose has been better than expected this year. In my opinion, I wasn't expecting them to be as competitive as they have been. Minnesota, as we've talked about, one of the best teams in the NHL. Should be a really fun one there. And then finally, the Dallas Stars against the LA Kings. Again, Dallas on an absolute tear right now. This is a big week for them with a lot of really fun games for the Stars this week. And LA, they're going to try and get a winning streak going. They've had such an up and down season. If they're able to pick up a win over the Stars, that could really kind of launch them into another winning streak potentially. Should be a lot of fun with that one. Friday night, December 10th, we've got the Pittsburgh Penguins against the Washington Capitals. I mean, does this really need any introduction? This has been one of the best rivalries in the NHL in recent times. They haven't played in the playoffs in a while, since 2018, so it hasn't been a playoff-driven rivalry, but it's still carrying on as a rivalry. Crosby versus Ovechkin, Pens versus Caps. Just always an absolute treat every time these two teams play, and I can't wait to see how Friday's game goes. Washington's been playing really, really well this season. Pittsburgh's been playing pretty well as of late. We'll see who's able to get the 2 points. And finally, Saturday, December 11th, Got a few games on Saturday, a lot of cross-conference games on Saturday, so that keeps the list a little bit smaller. But I've got the New Jersey Devils against the New York Islanders. And while these aren't two great teams, similar to when the Devils play Philadelphia back on Wednesday, these are two very desperate hockey teams trying to pick up some wins. Both of these teams have really struggled recently. The Devils, trying to get back into the win column. They had such a good start to the season, but have really fallen off as of late. The Islanders on a brutal losing streak right now. They haven't won in their last 10 games. Desperate for any kind of points that they can get. If they're going to turn their season around, they need to do it like right now. This is a big game for two teams desperate for wins. And whoever gets the 2 points out of this one, it is going to be a big 2 points. The Minnesota Wild against the LA Kings. Really fun one out west here. Again, Minnesota we've talked about so much, trying to fight their way to the top of the Western Conference, while the Kings are trying to get a winning streak going, trying to pick up some big wins here. They've kind of fallen back towards being a 500 team as of recent. They could use a big win, and certainly beating Minnesota would be a huge win for them if they could pull that off. And then finally, the Dallas Stars against the San Jose Sharks. Two teams that, for me, have been better than I thought they were going to be. Dallas so hot right now. San Jose's remain very competitive in the Pacific. And that's going to be a big game between two pretty solid teams looking to increase their playoff chances with a solid win. So those are your games of the week for this week in the NHL. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, share, comment on the video. Follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our merchandise store, memberships, and donation links are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll talk to you guys soon.